Up very shortly. Next, though, Russian and Chinese weapons manufacturers are clashing head-on on the international arms market. China's new fighter jet seems to be a cheaper imitation of the Russian original, and it is threatening to put a multi-billion-dollar engine sale contract between Russia and China on hold.
Yeah, here's RT's Tessa Arcilla. She's got the details for us. Tessa, what's just happened? Can you please give us the background on the story, please?
Well, what's happened here is that there's a large contract in relation to the delivery of Russian-made RD-93 engines fitted for Chinese-Pakistani fighter jets called the FC-1. Now, this delivery consists of about 100 RD-93 engines, and it's a pretty big deal. Now, it's facing a bit of opposition from Russian producers, aircraft manufacturers here in Russia, such as the head of the MiG and Sukhoi Aviation Holding, Mikhail Pagosyan. His point, as he said in the Kommersant newspaper, is that the FC-1 is extremely close, if not the same, as the Russian-made MiG-29. So this is going to be competition, and it will incur losses for the Russian manufacturers. Now, what he's suggesting actually is that before such deals come about, that there's some sort of an agreement with Russian manufacturers. And this is what he had to say in his words from the Kommersant newspaper.
Russia's aircraft producers have to admit they now face a serious competitor, China. The head of jet fighter producers Sukhoi and MiG, Mikhail Pagosyan, has spoken out against a large deal with China for Russian jet engines used in China's FC-1 airplane. He says the FC-1 is a direct competitor to Russia's MiG-29.
Now, a source quoted by Kommersant newspaper also says that in relation to price, there is a big difference. It's significantly cheaper. The FC-1 made by the Chinese is significantly cheaper than the MiG-29, Russian-made, 10 million versus 35 million. Now, Rosoboronexport says that actually these re-exports, there's nothing wrong with these re-exports, that it's actually in accordance with decisions made by the Russian government, and that there's no law whatsoever that says that there should be any agreement with Russian manufacturers. They've even given an example of the RD-33 engine, which is another Russian-made engine that was re-exported to Egypt, and it was given approval by the Federal Service for Military and Technical Cooperation in 2007. And this engine is being sold to countries like Bangladesh, Algiers, and Saudi Arabia. So basically, this has been going on. Now, in support of Pagosyan's point is Konstantin Makiyenko, who says that this is actually a fair point, that there will be competition. It might affect the bottom line of Russian manufacturers, aircraft manufacturers. Now, Ruslan Pukov, who's a member of the Public Council within the Defense Ministry, says that if we follow this line of thinking, it will be very difficult to explain to a country like China that after all these years of Russia re-exporting Russian-made engines, all of a sudden it's going to stop or make it a little bit more difficult. Now, Ruslan Pukov will speak about this and elaborate later on in the program.
Okay, thank you very much to our correspondent, Tessa Arcilla, with the latest.
So to discuss the issue further, we're joined by Ruslan Pukhov, the head of the Center of Analysis of Strategies and Technologies. Ruslan, thank you so much for finding the time to talk to us. So what's your opinion on this debate on whether to sell these engines or not?
You know, there are all these pros and contras when we are talking about cooperation with China. Obviously, Chinese sucked a lot of technologies from Russia, both legally and illegally, and it helped them to do a tremendous progress in as far as the aircraft, for example, manufacturing concerned. Namely, before the cooperation at the beginning of the 90s, they were producing the fighter jets of second generation, kind of clones of MiG-21, and now they are producing the fighters of fourth generation.
Ruslan, how much does Russia suffer when China is making its own version, its own copies of Russian technology? How much does the Russian arms trade suffer through loss of sales?
This problem is already actual as far as the land armament concerned, for the ground forces. But as far as the high-tech submarines, fighter jets, air defense, so far it is not so real. For example, the illegal copies of Su-27 which were delivered to PLA Air Force were rejected by them after several months of use, saying that this aircraft is unable to fight. That's why Chinese are still dependent for themselves and for the export in very crucial components.
Okay, you mentioned that the story is quite overrated, so you wouldn't say that Russia could be pushed out of the market completely?
You know, the markets, they are very much different. Certain countries buy from US, certain countries buy from us, certain countries buy from France. The countries of real open rivalry fight for the market. There are not so many of them. For instance, India. But as far as the India concerned, India being a geopolitical adversary of China will never buy Chinese weapon. That's why there are typically Chinese markets like Nigeria or like Bangladesh, where Chinese sell for different reasons. There are markets which are tied to Russia, like Venezuela, Algeria, India. The markets of armament is not so much similar to the markets of consumer goods. That's why we cannot reason in the same terms talking about arms export.
Ruslan, what's the solution for Russia? How do they stop nations from taking their best technologies?
We must evaluate case by case. In which case it's easier and better and more wise for us to sell certain types of the technology, get the money and invest them in the technology of next generation. And in certain cases we should simply say no to our Chinese friend because of their illegal cloning of our weapons. It very much depends on each case.
Okay, thank you very much for talking to us. Ruslan Pukhov, head of the Center for Analysis of Strategies and Technologies.